Hi, I'm Jake Frazier,
And I'm Robert Allen.
and we did our project on the heart and substance abuse.
Before we can tell you the effects of all these drugs and what they have on the heart, I'm going to give you a brief history on each one of them. One of the most widely used illegal drugs in the United States is cocaine, and like many other drugs, it comes from a plant that has been used for thousands of years in other parts of the world. Cocaine comes from the coca leaf, a plant that has a long history in spiritual rituals. It used to be that in the Andean culture, the cocoa plant was linked to a sacred goddess. These cultures believed that they had to please the cocoa goddess in order to have a successful harvest. The leaves of the cocoa plant were chewed or smoked to help the natives connect with the spiritual beings as well as provide magical protection and powers. Traditionally, coca leaves were chewed only by the leaders or royalty. Over time, however, even lower classes were encouraged to chew the leaves to experience the benefits. Cocaine was first extracted from the coca plant in the 1860s. At first, it seemed to be a miracle drug that was useful in treating depression and morphine addiction, and it was prescribed by many physicians for various reasons. However, it became evident that there were soon serious problems with using cocaine, and decreased naturally in popularity by the 1920s. It was still being produced heavily in South America and other areas, though, and cocaine made a comeback to the United States in the 1970s and 1980s. At the time, it was legal, yet in great demand. The cost for cocaine was high, and violence became connected to the use and selling of cocaine. Areas of cities that had many drug dealers became dangerous because of guns and violence they brought with them. Cocaine had a rocky history in the United States, and there's been much controversy about the connection between the United States government and cocaine dealers. There have been articles and books written about the CIA working with cocaine dealers to help win the war on communism. Others argue that the aggressive role the U.S. government played in banning the drug actually led to smuggling of it into our U.S. country. Although it was first made in 1887 in Germany, amphetamine was rarely used until the 1930s when it was marketed as Benzedrine. Methamphetamine, which is more potent and easy to make, was discovered in Japan in 1919. The crystalline powders were soluble in water, making a perfect candidate for injection. During World War II, amphetamines were widely used to keep the fighting men awake. In the United States in the 1950s, legally manufactured tablets of both dexedrine and methadone became readily available and were used non-medically by call students, truck drivers, and athletes. As the use of amphetamine spread, so did their abuse. Amphetamines became a cure-all for such things as weight control to treating mild depression. This pattern changed drastically in the 1960s with the increased availability of injectable methamphetamine. The 1970 Controlled Substance Act severely restricted the legal production of injectable methamphetamine, causing its use to decrease greatly. Methamphetamine trafficking and abuse in the United States have been on the rise over the past few years, as indicated by investigating seizures, price, purity, and abuse data. As a result, this drug is having a devastating impact in many communities across the nation. Although more common in western areas of the country, this impact increasingly is being felt in areas not previously familiar with the harmful effects of the powerful stimulant. Cannabis, also known as marijuana, refers to any number of preparations of the cannabis plant intended for use as a psychoactive drug or for medicinal purposes. According to the United Nations, cannabis is the most widely used illicit substance in the world. The major psychoactive chemical compound in cannabis is THC. Documented instances of cannabis use go back as far as the 3rd millennium BC. In modern times, the drug has been used for recreational, religious, spiritual, and medicinal purposes. The UN estimated that in 2004, about 4% of the world's adult population uses cannabis annually, and about 22.5 million use it on a daily basis.
Now that we have a background on some of these illegal drugs, we're going to explain how these drugs affect the cardiovascular system and the heart. Let's begin with marijuana. Most people think that marijuana doesn't have any effect on our bodies at all. An article written by Paul Grayburn named Substance Abuse in the Heart only names 2 possible side effects of marijuana on the heart. One of these side effects is that it depresses myocardial contraction, which means the heart isn't pumping as fast and as hard as it normally would. The second side effect that they name in the article is the loss of venous tone. This happens over long-term marijuana use. It's stated that marijuana, as of right now, is not associated with any cardiovascular diseases. Next on the list is alcohol. Alcohol technically isn't an illegal drug, but It's the most widely used drug in the United States. 40% of the US population use alcohol on a regular basis. Due to the amount of people that use alcohol, the cardiovascular effects are very widespread. One of the toxic effects that alcohol has on the heart is dilated cardiomyopathy. Dilated cardiomyopathy happens when the heart becomes enlarged, as well as weak, and cannot pump sufficient blood to areas of the body, such as the liver, the kidneys. Although we know there's a direct relation between alcohol and dilated cardiomyopathy, there's no clear mechanisms that what in alcohol cause these effects. There are three main reasons for the direct toxic effects of alcohol on the cardiovascular system. One of these is the direct toxic effects of the alcohol metabolites. The next is when you drink alcohol, your vitamins and minerals get depleted. And the third effect is the other additives in alcohol, such as cobalt. Because alcohol slows the body so much, it slows the muscles of the heart down, so adequate blood cannot be pumped to the body. This causes long-term effects. Cardiac arrhythmias is also a common effect of alcohol. Cardiac arrhythmias is the irregular heartbeat that's caused from drinking. The irregular heartbeat caused from drinking is not necessarily a long-term effect of alcohol. Cardiac arrhythmias, or irregular heartbeat, is caused by a premature heartbeat, and this happens from just drinking a few drinks. You don't have to be a long-term abuser of alcohol for this to happen. The effects usually go away if you abstain from alcohol. Heroin use can have a great deal of effect on the cardiovascular system. It greatly depresses the cardiovascular system, especially the muscles of the heart. It depresses the muscle of the heart so much that it can cause pulmonary edema, which can cause an acute death. Heroin abuse can also cause myocarditis, which is the inflammation of the heart muscles. This can also cause an acute death. There was a study done of 21 heroin addicts that overdosed and died. Of these 21 heroin addicts, 18 of them had myocarditis. Of many drugs, it's still not clear what causes the effects on the heart and cardiovascular system, as is with heroin. It's not known to this day what causes the inflammation of the heart, the swelling of the heart, or the pulmonary edema. Pulmonary edema, caused by heart failure from heroin use, or myocarditis, is the buildup of fluid in the air sacs of the lungs. Finally, we come to the drug that's the hardest on the cardiovascular system: cocaine. In 1999, 25 million people in the United States had tried cocaine at least once. 1.5 of those 25 million were regular users. Of these regular users of cocaine, the age range was from 18 to 45 years old. 25% of the 1.5 million had heart attacks that were non-fatal. Every year there's 175,000 visits to the emergency room due to cocaine. As cocaine enters the system, it blocks the reuptake of epinephrine and dopamine. Dopamine is the hormone in the body that makes us feel good. Dopamine is released during sex, but when cocaine is ingested, an excess amount of dopamine, 10 times the amount of that, released during sex. Epinephrine is the neurotransmitter in the body that is responsible for speeding up our processes. The first known cardiovascular complication due to cocaine happened in 1911 after a dental procedure. First-time users of cocaine may experience a heart attack due to the overloading effect on the heart. As cocaine enters the system, it causes vasoconstriction, which causes the veins to get smaller than they normally are. Because the veins are smaller than they normally are, blood has to be pumped harder through them, which raises the blood pressure. This causes acute hypertension,